Seiichi Hiragi is an average high school student in modern-day Japan, but he is mocked for being chubby. One day, a deity transforms him to another world to embark on an incredible new life in a magical world, where he forges strong alliances and crafts formidable spells. His remarkable abilities draw the attention of Barnabas Ablett, the head of the Barbador Academy of Magic, who extends an invitation for Seiichi to join as a teacher at the institution. Coincidentally, Seiichi's fellow classmates from Earth also find themselves enrolled at the academy, setting the stage for a potentially awkward reunion. However, unbeknownst to most, a mysterious cult known as the Great Devil Order hatches a nefarious plan to resurrect their deity, with the students of Barbador intended as sacrificial offerings to expedite the process. Given that Seiichi possesses unparalleled power, the responsibility falls on his shoulders to safeguard not only his friends but the entire world from the impending darkness. Hiragi Seiichi is a second-year high school student who finds himself in another world. There, he is embraced by a red-haired beauty who declares her love for him and asks him to marry her. This overwhelms Seiichi, and he starts remembering how he got into this situation. Back in the present, a deity appears at their school, transporting all the students to enigmatic places beyond Earth. Seiichi faces bullying due to his unkempt appearance and weight, prompting him to venture forth alone. After wandering and enduring hunger for 5 days, Seiichi stumbles upon an unfamiliar fruit on the ground. Despite its unknown taste, he decides to eat it in desperation. Seiichi is taken aback when he discovers a group of animals positioned higher than he is. After they depart, he opts to take the monkey's fruits and a recovery potion. Meanwhile, Seiichi's classmates are united, but without Seiichi, prompting some to express concern for his well-being. However, Seiichi persists in experimenting with various foods without considering their effects on him. Realizing he's left with only 2 fruits, he decides to consume them simultaneously. Unexpectedly, a voice announces his promotion in ranks just as a monkey attacks Seiichi. Failing to defend himself, Seiichi is severely beaten by the monkey, which then focuses on his stomach. A radiant light engulfs the scene, transforming the monkey into gift items just as it attempts to bite Seiichi's stomach. Seiichi, filled with curiosity, reads through the contents of the intelligent monkey's knowledge book. A voice triggers his evolution, subjecting him to intense pain and resulting in a thinner appearance. 5 months pass in Seiichi's new environment, during which he applies the clever monkey's knowledge to enhance his abilities. When faced with an acro wolf, Seiichi triumphs, gaining its unique powers and wisdom. Another evolution process follows, leaving just one more stage. Suddenly surrounded by clever monkeys and a massive gorilla standing before him, Seiichi finds himself in a challenging situation. Seiichi faces a denial of his human rights when challenged to a fight by the gorilla. Dodging its initial attack, he discovers the gorilla is a female of its species. Despite relentless assaults, the gorilla, named Saria, finds Seiichi's resilience intriguing as he withstands her blows. Introducing herself mid-battle, Saria continues her onslaught. In a desperate move, Seiichi unlocks the water spirit's dagger, attempting to strike Saria, only to face unintended consequences as the attack backfires. Saria relentlessly employs her flash fist ability, causing Seiichi to suffer severe bleeding. Faced with the inability to defeat Saria, Seiichi comes to terms with the possibility of his demise at her hands. As thoughts of his life and memories with classmates flood his mind, Seiichi, on the brink of surrender, gathers inner strength and contemplates his limited options. Saria predicts Seiichi's end and prepares for a decisive strike, prompting Seiichi to utilize his stench performer against her. Unexpectedly, Saria reveals her affection for Seiichi and departs with him, carrying him on her shoulders. Seiichi experiences discomfort being in Saria's company as she welcomes him and extends a meal. Despite Seiichi's objections, Saria remains resolute in her proposal of becoming his bride and demonstrates feminine attributes. As Seiichi contemplates an escape plan, Saria interrupts his thoughts, sharing her proficiency in communication and presenting a few books. Seiichi becomes absorbed in the book's content, discovering spells that facilitate convenient chores. The next day, while at a pond, Seiichi watches Saria fish with fervor and attempts to flee, only to encounter a menacing ant. Saria intervenes to rescue Seiichi, prompting him to recognize her sincere concern despite his persistent rejection based on their species. Saria then enlightens Seiichi about the importance of the fruit of evolution, while Seiichi pretends to be unaware of its significance. Saria grows furious upon discovering her gathered fruits have been stolen, but eventually pardons Seiichi. She sets off on a hunting expedition while Seiichi opts to flee. Meanwhile, Seiichi's classmates grow restless in their world, craving genuine battles. As Saria tracks down Seiichi with determination, he employs his abilities to evade her and seeks refuge in a mysterious cave. Inside, he encounters a skull resembling a person, shrouded in mystery. The enigmatic skull perceives Seiichi as a formidable individual. Seiichi utilizes his abilities to uncover the person's true identity, realizing he's confronted by the Dark Lord Xanos. In an attempt to safeguard Seiichi, Saria intervenes and takes the blow intended for him. Seiichi, overwhelmed with emotion, sheds tears and questions Saria's motivation for her sacrificial act, then fiercely confronts Xanos in anger. Seiichi launches a furious assault on Xanos, expressing his feelings to Saria during the confrontation. Ultimately, Seiichi triumphs by stabbing Xanos, causing the Dark Lord to gradually fade away. To Seiichi's surprise, as Xanos vanishes, he witnesses Xanos departing with his true love. Seiichi engages in a conversation with Saria, who utters her final words before a radiant light envelops him as Saria's tear falls. As Seiichi bleeds, Saria, completely unclothed, embraces him, revealing her human identity. A feminine voice recounts Xanos' tale. Once a revered hero loved by many, he was ultimately betrayed by those closest to him. Marie, Xanos' maid, sacrificed herself to protect him, resulting in his transformation into a monstrous being. Seiichi unlocks a treasury box, discovering a garment for Saria. With all of Xanos' powers now at his disposal, Seiichi reaches the pinnacle of his evolution. Seiichi reluctantly shares his intention to leave the forest with Saria. Offering to accompany him, Saria expresses her willingness to follow him to his destination. Suddenly, a peculiar creature, introducing himself as the dungeon administrator and calling himself Mr. Sheep, appears. Mr. Sheep taunts Seiichi about his evolution experience and reveals their reward, an evolution cultivation set and a 10-day travel kit. With a snap of his fingers, Saria's attire changes, while Seiichi receives a special helmet with unique abilities. Briefly explaining the helmet's functions, Mr. Sheep joyfully teleports them out of the forest. Taking in the sights beyond the forest, Saria marvels at the world before them and then grasps Seiichi's hand as they embark on their new journey. Seiichi consents to Saria's proposal of visiting the nearest town, acknowledging it as an opportunity to obtain proof of their identity. While on their journey, Seiichi encounters a jiggle and swiftly eradicates it. After delivering the final blow, Seiichi observes the aftermath and discovers boots and cards. As his helmet evolves into a robe, Seiichi grapples with the realization that his ranks continue to escalate, making him feel like a monster. He gains insight into the importance of his robe through a letter from Sheep, learning about its significance. Seiichi and Saria persist in their journey toward finding a town, eventually arriving at the city of Telbert. They encounter an armored officer who expresses astonishment at their lack of identification. Following the guard's instructions, Seiichi and Saria comply, eventually receiving permission to enter the city. Seiichi finds himself grabbed by the collar by the guard, who warns him against visiting the guild. Afterward, the guard formally introduces himself as Claude Schreiser. Despite Claude's advice, Seiichi disregards it and decides to explore the guild, assuming it to be an ordinary place. Peeking inside, Seiichi is taken aback to discover the guild's rather perverse nature. In an attempt to leave, he encounters Gussel, the guild's master, who ends up inviting them inside. Eris changes into her work attire and presents herself to Seiichi and Saria. Seiichi opts to join Gussel's guild and completes the necessary paperwork. Later, some bullies approach Seiichi and demand privacy, prompting concern from Saria as she observes Seiichi following the unfamiliar men. Seiichi encounters the leader of the group and realizes he's been summoned for unsavory activities. He makes a swift escape, using all his strength, and safely returns to the guild. While playing, one of the children slips and cries, prompting Artoria to attend to the child. She rescues the child from the woods and quietly expresses feelings of inferiority. Meanwhile, Seiichi punches a building, causing it to collapse on him. Artoria blames herself for Seiichi's accident and diligently separates the bricks to find him, berating herself as she does. She reflects on her tendency to isolate herself due to her predisposition. Seiichi eventually emerges from the debris, receiving a stern reprimand from Artoria for his actions. Meanwhile, Seiichi's classmates continue their training, although the one in charge adamantly refuses to allow them to battle demons. Artoria assigns their next task, to take a dog for a walk. Seiichi initially assumes it will be easy, but ends up screaming in terror. He eventually returns to the guild and receives the reward for completing their task. Surprisingly, Artoria invites Seiichi and Saria to stay at her inn. Artoria sets the parameters for Seiichi and Saria's tests and explains their responsibilities. While Saria successfully follows Artoria's instructions and passes the test, Seiichi takes a different approach. He returns to the forest in an attempt to collect another set of herbs to pass the test. Despite searching various locations, Seiichi realizes he can't find any. Suddenly, he overhears peculiar voices conversing within the bushes. Deciding to inquire about the herbs, Seiichi startles the three men, causing them to panic, which leads to their introduction. Bosco and Terry prevent Seiichi from departing, while Belle summons a massive troll to assault him. Seiichi tests his newfound abilities and shatters the troll's weapon. Upon returning to Artoria empty-handed, she overlooks it and assists him in acquiring the herbs. Meanwhile, Belle and his companions are chastised for disobeying their master by visiting the human realm. Claude joins Seiichi and Saria as they get ready for their ultimate test, and Artoria leads them to a vast field, providing instructions for the task ahead. Saria enthusiastically showcases her weapon to Artoria, who doesn't seem to understand Saria's demonstrations. Artoria notices some slimes surrounding them and alerts Seiichi to commence his test by defeating them. Artoria realizes they're surrounded by teleportation spells and unfortunately falls into one of them. Artoria and Seiichi find themselves in a strange place, and Artoria scolds them lightly for following her. Artoria hands over a guide stone to Seiichi and explains its function, instructing them not to lose the stone or get separated. Artoria mistakenly steps on a stone that causes a wall to separate them. Artoria grits her teeth, eager to catch up with Seiichi and Saria swiftly. The stone they rely on for guidance proves unreliable, prompting them to opt for an alternative route. Engaging in a battle with a reanimated corpse, Artoria sustains injuries, but her unwavering determination to reunite with Seiichi and Saria empowers her to emerge victorious. Meanwhile, Seiichi attempts to defend himself from a dubious treasure chest, which promptly vanishes afterward. A female voice recounts the historical significance of possessing a treasure chest in ancient times, noting its decline in importance with the invention of the item box. The guiding stone starts emitting a red light, indicating that Artoria is in peril. Unaware, Artoria finds herself in the lair of the Black Dragon God. Seiichi and Saria become anxious upon realizing Artoria needs assistance, yet they're faced with formidable barriers that could be easily destroyed. Artoria hits the ground after enduring the Black Dragon God's onslaught, refusing to yield and mustering enough strength to rise again. Despite her determination, as she charges at the dragon, she ends up wounded in the leg while attempting to strike it, blood seeping from her injuries. The dragon's tail pierces her abdomen, causing Artoria to contemplate Seiichi and Saria while she struggles to reunite with them. As the dragon prepares to finish her off, Artoria gradually opens her eyes to find Seiichi shielding her. Artoria, grappling to speak, queries Seiichi and Saria about how they managed to find her. Saria recounts their journey to Artoria, while Seiichi takes on the dragon god for harming her. Seiichi entrusts a healing potion to Saria to administer to Artoria and confronts their adversary. He exudes confidence in his capacity to vanquish the dragon and ensure their safe return home together. Angered, the black dragon curses as it launches an attack on Seiichi. Seiichi employs his instant movement abilities to evade the dragon's attacks, and using his appraisal skill, recognizes the dragon's higher level. Despite his efforts, Seiichi is thrown against a wall, sustaining injuries as the dragon manipulates his body. The dragon unleashes its most potent spell, prompting Saria to urge Seiichi to replicate the spell he used during their previous duel. Although the dragon attempts to control Seiichi, he successfully counters its influence. Seiichi emerges victorious against the black dragon, intrigued by the creature's deep-seated animosity. Saria embraces Seiichi as they deliberate on Artoria's recovery. Seiichi becomes anxious upon realizing he lacks knowledge about the route home. In his rewards, he discovers the black dragon's gem among the various items. Consuming the gem, he acquires a more potent coat. Delving into the treasure chest, Seiichi uncovers a book detailing the dragon's life story. The black dragon once served as a guardian for the human world until humans' greed led to the exploitation of the dragon's power to create weapons. Touched by the dragon's biography, Seiichi sheds tears. Sheep sends another congratulatory letter to Seiichi for successfully clearing the dungeon. Seiichi glares at the letter with frustration while Sheep mocks him, yet Saria appears pleased to hear from Sheep once again. Carrying Artoria in his arms, Seiichi heads home alongside Saria. When Artoria awakens, she swats at Seiichi but relents due to her incomplete recovery. She reveals her status level to Seiichi and Saria, surprising them as they learn the reason behind Artoria's moniker, Calamity. Returning to the guild, Artoria discovers the efforts made by her comrades in their search for them, moved to tears as Seiichi consoles her with kind and comforting words about her character. Bell and his companions pass their time gaming while conversing about the human realm. Bell's master joins them and shares the news of the Black Dragon's demise. Seiichi opts to employ the Guidestone to find Artoria. He encounters Adriana, who communicates her request to him. Seiichi persists in his search until reaching the site of their initial guide test. Seiichi succeeds in comforting Artoria and lifting her spirits. Eris remains optimistic, seeing the impact of Seiichi's kindness on Artoria. Seiichi locates Artoria and contemplates deeply, searching for a solution to alleviate her misfortune. Eventually, he retrieves a ring of happiness and carefully places it on Artoria's finger, aiming to counteract her streak of misfortune. Seiichi dwells on his past interactions with Artoria as she continues to avoid him. Saria consoles Seiichi regarding the situation, and then reveals her plan to visit the orphanage. Seiichi decides to seek information about his new world from Gussel and Eris. Initially teased by Eris and Gussel with their books, they eventually delve into the matter seriously. Seiichi learns about a country organizing a hero summoning event, and deduces that it involves his classmates. Meanwhile, the King of Kaiser expresses frustration to his subject about Zakaya's failure to initiate practical training with the students in preparation for a potential resurrection of the Demon Lord. The subject proposes enrolling the students in Barbador Magic Academy, and suggests using enslavement bracelets to keep them under Kaiser's control. Artoria breathes heavily while jogging, contemplating her recent behavior. She takes a brief pause to reflect on her emotions whenever Seiichi crosses her mind. Meanwhile, Seiichi invests time in researching the Demon Lord, eventually attaining elementary magic skills at an advanced level. Saria successfully amuses and teases the children, eliciting laughter as she plays with them. Seiichi gains permission from an art seller to appreciate her artwork, leading him to make a purchase. Intrigued by a captivating aroma, Seiichi follows it to a nearby cafe. The bartender and a patron encourage Seiichi to come inside, leaving him slightly perplexed. The cafe customer introduces himself as Ranze. Ranze presents Seiichi to the cafe proprietor Noah. Meanwhile, Adriana accompanies Artoria to a garden to delve into Artoria's sentiments towards Seiichi. Artoria seeks guidance from Adriana on how to capture Seiichi's attention, and Adriana enthusiastically offers her aid. Seiichi converses with Ranze and Noah regarding Artoria's ring, realizing the complexity of the situation he has unintentionally created. Ranze suggests to Seiichi the idea of openly expressing eternal love to both Artoria and Saria, advising him to approach it with an open mind. Despite Noah's reminder about Ranze's position, Ranze dismisses it, assuring Noah that Louise will come to pick him up. Seiichi decides to postpone making a decision as he's at the orphanage to retrieve Saria. Suddenly, Artoria calls out Seiichi's name and moves towards him. Before Seiichi can utter a word, Artoria leans in and kisses him, confessing her love despite realizing he has Saria. Artoria envelops Seiichi in an embrace, expressing her determination to stay in love and becoming emotional. Seiichi reflects, recalling Ranze's advice and searching for a solution. As he ponders, Saria emerges to meet Seiichi, causing him to panic in an attempt to avoid any misunderstanding. However, to Seiichi's surprise, Saria encourages him to accept Artoria's love, explaining her reasoning behind this unexpected decision. Both Artoria and Seiichi are taken aback by Saria's compassionate words, expressing her affection for them both. Rushing towards them, Saria's actions prompt Seiichi to respond to Artoria's feelings, promising not to let her down. Eris, Guskel, and several well-wishers gather to congratulate Seiichi and his companions. Seiichi finds it uneasy to focus on his meal due to Gussel's repetitive hip thrusts, and urges him to articulate what he wants to convey. Eventually, Gussel hands Seiichi a map and suggests acquiring a horse. Seiichi independently locates the stable while the girls pursue their own activities. The ranch owner informs Seiichi about the upcoming Royal Cup event and showcases the available horses. Seiichi encounters a wild mare resistant to bonding with anyone. Utilizing his ability to communicate with animals, Seiichi interacts with Lulun, the donkey, and earns her trust as she acknowledges him as her master. Seiichi strolls with Lulun through the market and encounters a boy urging an artist to join a competition. Seiichi interrupts their conversation and Mei swiftly recognizes him. Encouraged by Seiichi's presence, the boy, Clay Berger, urges Mei to participate in the prestigious Charity painting competition within the Wimberg Kingdom. Seiichi discovers the boy's name and Clay persistently tries to convince Mei, but she remains hesitant. Seiichi proposes to Mei that she consider Clay's offer if he emerges victorious in the Royal Cup competition. The host and announcer of the Royal Cup competition introduces herself as Lorna Kurizas, identifying herself as one of the Valkyries. The audience erupts in cheers as Lorna unveils the grand prizes. Seiichi and Lulun agree to aim for the 5th position to secure their tambuli. Clay and Mei approach Seiichi, suggesting he withdraw from the competition, but Seiichi declines. As Lorna outlines the requirements to win, the competitors hold their positions and the vast crowd eagerly anticipates the race's start. The race begins, and some riders encounter difficulties due to their deer sudden deaths. Lulun rides at a slower pace, informing Seiichi that she skipped breakfast, which is now affecting her performance. Seiichi presents Lulun with one of the fruit evolution cultivation sets to consume, while chaos unfolds among the other riders, propelling a few ahead into the middle phase of the course. Amidst the competition, a female rider resolves to take down all the participants by summoning a pack of wolves using a special whistle. The wolves arrive, instilling fear in the other riders and prompting Lorna to prepare to call off the race. Lorna prepares to halt the race as a swift and forceful sound approaches, capturing her attention. Seiichi urges Lulun to ease her pace, but Lulun struggles to control her increased speed. Despite Seiichi's plea, Lulun charges at the wolves, leading to the demise of most of them due to her violent onslaught. The female rider commands a hell wolf to attack Lulun, who confidently retaliates with her legs. Fearing the consequences, the other competitors opt to withdraw from the race, intimidated by Seiichi and Lulun's prowess. Ultimately, Seiichi and Lulun emerge as the victors of the Royal Cup race. Although they miss out on obtaining the tambuli, Lulun reverts to her human form and, alongside Seiichi, reflects on the implications of the missed prize. Seiichi has a nosebleed when witnessing Lulun transform into a stunning woman. Artoria discovers Seiichi with the naked Lulun and reacts with jealousy, punching him. After Saria explains the situation, Artoria calms down and accompanies Lulun to acquire clothing. Meanwhile, 2 Valkyrie members, Claudia and Lorna, visit the boutique to meet Seiichi. Claudia places an arrest bracelet on Seiichi and summons him to their castle. Leia introduces herself upon arriving at the meeting attended by Captain Leia Falzar from the Demon Lord's Army's 3rd Division. Urus, a member of the Demon Lord's Army, criticizes Leia for her tardiness. Lutia, the Demon Lord's daughter, holds a discussion with the board regarding her intention to form an alliance with the Wimberg Kingdom. Leia attempts to share her thoughts on the idea and brings up the demise of the Black Dragon, attributing it to Seiichi. Her colleagues express disbelief at this revelation. Despite the skepticism, Lutia stands firm on her decision for the alliance, gaining approval from all the captains except Kreis. Kreis erupts in anger at the captain's disapproval, swearing to proceed with his malevolent schemes while laughing sinisterly. Meanwhile, Lorna guides Seiichi around the palace and disputes with Claudia regarding his freedom. Seiichi eventually encounters Louise, the captain of the Valkyries, and observes her training session with others. Following her training, Louise approaches Seiichi and challenges him to a mock battle. Over at the Barbador Magic Academy, Kanazuki and her friends rendezvous with Uyama and his squad. One of Uyama's companions suggests a duel between the groups, while Uyama attempts to both bully and flirt with Kanazuki. Seiichi skillfully evades Louise's initial strike, earning her praise. As Louise gears up for a decisive blow, a voice highlights Seiichi's newfound abilities. Evading Louise's attacks, Seiichi skillfully disarms her by using his leg to deflect her sword, leaving the trainees astonished by Louise's unexpected defeat. Bowing respectfully, Louise expresses her wish to acknowledge Seiichi as her master. Meanwhile, a peculiar girl discreetly follows Ranze as he prepares for his daily bath, while Claudia arranges a private meeting with Seiichi to discuss Louise. During the meeting, Louise interrupts to apologize to Seiichi for prematurely addressing him as master without his full consent. She expresses gratitude to Seiichi for a previous rescue and proceeds to narrate the story behind her gratitude. Louise shares her childhood experiences of mastering swordsmanship and growing stronger, but unfortunately, her exceptional skill creates a barrier between her and others, preventing her from experiencing the joy of friendship, until Seiichi enters her life and saves her. Suddenly, a maid's scream alarms the Valkyries about the king being in danger. Despite the urgency, Seiichi refuses to return home and employs his vision power to locate the culprit, revealing it to be a child. Seiichi watches the culprit moving at an abnormal speed, analyzing her identity and age. He catches Oliga attempting to escape and attempts to approach her gently, but she becomes hostile and attacks Seiichi. Louise directs Lorna to interrogate the still unconscious Oliga, while Seiichi takes the initiative to assist the king and asks the girls to escort him to the king. Seiichi is startled to discover that the king is none other than Ranze, which prompts him to cry out in surprise. Florio, Louise's brother, enters the room and implores Seiichi to use his abilities to heal Ranze. Seiichi, after analyzing the situation, opts to craft a spell to counter the curse, but he starts to panic internally due to his lack of knowledge about the correct procedure. In a moment of inadvertence, Seiichi unknowingly utters a word that unexpectedly becomes the solution to heal the king. Ranze awakens and discovers Seiichi's extraordinary aid, prompting a celebration of his recovery. Meanwhile, Zakia meets King Kaisar and learns about his clandestine decision to relocate Seiichi's classmates to Barbados Academy. Kanazuki's friend expresses discontent about the mistreatment they're enduring, particularly when Uyama and his companions join in to harass them. Kisaragi pressures Kanazuki to recap their conversation with her friends and discloses that his squad is behind the issue. Kisaragi justifies his actions, but Kanazuki instructs her friends to disregard it as they depart from the scene. Lorna updates Louise on the progress of Oliga's interrogation, while Claudia engages in casual conversation with the girls in the bath, discussing Seiichi's reward request to the king. Mimicking Seiichi's request and the girls' reactions, Lorna lightens the mood. Meanwhile, Artoria expresses her jealousy to Saria, who shows little concern about Seiichi's absence, confident in his abilities. Despite Saria's assurance, Artoria remains worried that Seiichi might return home with more companions, a thought that doesn't faze Saria. Artoria, contemplating different scenarios involving Seiichi with various individuals, ponders while bathing. In another setting, Ranze confides in Seiichi during their shared bath, sharing his dream of establishing public baths worldwide to promote unity and solidarity. Zakia rejects the news of the king's decision and probes him about it, attempting to question his judgment. However, the king's advisor, Helio, staunchly supports the king and rebukes Zakia for her interrogation. Helio proudly reveals the use of enslavement bracelets on the students to ensure loyalty to the Kaiser Empire, eliciting Zakia's disbelief. In a sudden turn of events, Zakia intervenes to protect the king from an imminent threat and is tasked with capturing the assailant. Meanwhile, Helio brings forward rumors to King Kaiser about King Ranze's alliance plans and informs him of dispatching an assassin to eliminate Ranze. Lorna dresses up in a costume and uses a whip for her interrogation. Oliga refuses to let out any information about her crimes, which prompts Lorna to use a torturous measure to make Oliga speak. Lorna presents a bowl and offers a pork cutlet bowl to Oliga, but ends up eating it herself while Oliga drools to have some of the delicious. Seiichi and Louise barge into the interrogating room, and Lorna receives scolding from Louise for using such a method in Oliga. Louise offers another meal to Oliga and brings their notice to the enslavement collar on Oliga's neck. Oliga illustrates by trying to take off the enslavement collar but ends up being electrified intensely. King Kaiser becomes furious at Helio's news about Oliga's failure to eliminate Ranze, and Helio decides to manipulate her into committing suicide using the enslavement collar. Zakia meets with the culprit who previously shot an arrow and learns that he bears the name Shien. Shien fires arrows at Zakia as he explains his reasons for taking such a move to eliminate the king. Shien plans to avenge the death of an innocent demon who was killed because of her identity. Naturi's death causes Shien to vow not to forgive all those responsible for her death, including the king. Zakia refuses to accept Shien's reasons and insists on punishing him for trying to harm the king. Shien refuses to disclose the secret behind his attacks, as he manages to inflict injury on Zakia's leg with his arrow. Zakia uses his powers to counter Shien's attacks and argues with him for Beg called a puppet. Shien retreats and postpones his fight with Zakia. The memories of that night causes Zakia to be raged. Seiichi ponders about how to free Olga from the collar, but ends up summoning Lincoln in the process. Seiichi panics as he watches Lincoln declare words of freedom to Olga. The collar surprisingly cracks and breaks into pieces afterward. Olga shed tears of joy as she experiences freedom, and Saria rushes to comfort her. Lulun concentrates on the bowl used by Lorna instead of joining them to speak with Olga. The atmosphere becomes calm as Olga willingly confesses to Seiichi and the rest. Olga unfolds her story about how her clan of beast folk was captured and persecuted, while the kids amongst them were trained to be killing machines for the Kaiser Empire. After several assassination missions, Olga gains practical experience in the art of murdering people. Seiichi decides to take responsibility for Olga's welfare and offers to be her elder brother. Helios secretly discusses with Christ the evil plans and their progress so far. Seiichi undergoes magic training with Frolio, as Seiichi views the process as being difficult. Louise meets Seiichi and makes a request to him, asking him to protect the king, as she'll be away for a while to join Paladin in confronting some monsters who has somehow infiltrated the kingdom. Frolio commends Seiichi as he improves with his training of different magic skills. Frolio suggests that Seiichi progresses to acquire the control skill, but Seiichi's pessimistic thoughts lead him to acquire the endless hell skill that he does not know about. Seiichi cusses when a familiar voice interrupts him. He looks up and discovers Eris and Gussel's arrival. Frolio recognizes the holy mage, Barnabas, whom the guild plans on presenting to the king. Frolio explodes in excitement as he learns that Barnabas is aware of his reputation. Seiichi seems to be the only one unable to recognize Barnabas's fame, and becomes frustrated when Barnabas tries to recall a movie character's name. Ranze jumps up from his seat as Barnabas slowly reveals himself to the king. Barnabas informs Ranze about his reason for visiting as it pertains to his academy, and Frolio immediately enlightens Seiichi that Barnabas is the principal of the Barbador Magic Academy. Kanazuki notices the intense stares coming from other students in the academy, which gives her great concern about her future. An armored guard rushes into the castle and announces the invasion of numerous monsters in the town, while the Valkyries face another set of vicious monsters. Paladin briefs Louise about the number of monsters he has been able to deal with so far before their arrival. Louise proposes a strategy for them to use in wiping their targets out as they seem stronger. Louise steps down from her horse as her colleagues alert her about the commencement of the battle. Claudia informs Louise about the message she has received about some monsters invading their city. Helio and Christ briefly meet again as they mock Ranze and his kingdom for being under tragedy. King Ranze and his best fighters observe the numerous monsters from a distance, and Seiichi and his girls prepare to put in their best to defeat the monsters. Olga nervously requests Seiichi to pat her head after their fight with the monsters, which Seiichi agrees to happily. All members of the guild take turns in revealing their powers, vowing to exterminate the monsters. Gussel leads their army as the monsters march towards them, and the girls also join him. Seiichi watches their entrance from the top of the tower, only to find the girls moving along with the members of the guild. Barnabas instructs Seiichi to halt and watch them first rather than jumping into action. Gussel uses his muscles in destroying the weapon of a huge troll before exterminating the troll itself. Eris swings her whip at Guskel for letting his guard down too much. Seiichi is impressed at Guskel's true powers as he effortlessly eliminates the monsters on his path. Claude also joins the guild in fighting the monsters while Barnabas snores. Seiichi is stunned at Noad's ability to strike down a huge beast in one strike. Ranze smiles as he praises Noad, but Seiichi is shocked as he only identifies Noad as a cafe owner. Seiichi cheers Artoria as she takes turn demonstrating her magic. The guild and everyone becomes confident in their victory when a blaring sound announces another set of monsters heading towards Telbert. Members of the guild continue to battle with the monsters. As more S-ranked monsters add to the horde, Seiichi watches how the monsters seem to be overpowering his friends and plots a way to create the perfect strike to defeat their enemies. Seiichi envisions his mode of attack and brings it into reality using magic, which surprisingly destroys the monsters. Saria and the girls begin to celebrate, assuming the battle to be over after Seiichi's impressive strike. The results of Seiichi's magic cause him to level up greatly, and even the voice behind that provides his analysis helps curate his new skills into categories. Ranze praises Seiichi before departing to assess the damage to the walls. Barnabas takes advantage of the opportunity and requests Seiichi to come to his academy to take up the role of a tutor. Students avoid and continue to ostracize Kanazuki and her squad, which also causes them worry. Seiichi declines Barnabas's offer to join his academy, as he's yet to fulfill the promise he made to Louise, to protect the king, his country, and his friends. Barnabas makes a proposition to Seiichi on how all his friends can join him at the academy, either as a tutor or a student. Saria and her friends happily consents to Barnabas's proposition, as they begin preparations while awaiting Louise's return. Seiichi decides to spend the rest of his days at Telbert, taking the girls on dates individually. Artoria holds Seiichi's arm as they walk through the market to begin their day together. Saria walks into Seiichi's room and suggests that Olga tags along with them for their day's outing. Olga compliments Saria's kind attitude towards her while expressing the joy of being amongst her loved ones. Seiichi speaks with Saria while Olga plays with her mates and responds to Saria's feelings, appreciating her for her sincere feelings towards him. Seiichi attends the charity painting competition which Clay and May apply for as planned. The host for the competition introduces the judge to his audience, and Seiichi later realizes that the judge for the competition is Clay's father. Clay enthusiastically explains the inspiration behind his art to the audience, as they all possess various perspectives about the painting. May enlightens the audience about the motive behind her painting, as it depicts the gallant figure of a legendary hero. Seiichi grins widely as he listens to May utter sweet words about his character and attributes her growth to his heroic abilities. Louise and her team return safely to Telber, while Christ is scolded for slacking in his duties to resurrect the Demon Lord. The Demon Lord orders his apostles to offer him more despair, needed for his resurrection. Ranze and his country conduct a farewell celebration for Seiichi and his party. In the second phase of the Fruit of Evolution, Saria and Seiichi assume the roles of hosts, and initially appear unsure about the show's concept. However, they both express anticipation and excitement as they prepare to reveal what the show has in store for its viewers. A fierce battle erupts between Seiichi and his adversary, both showcasing their unique weapon-handling abilities. The one with the advantage takes pleasure in watching Seiichi struggle to land a successful strike. Unfortunately, Seiichi fails to emerge victorious and ends up wounded with blood flowing from his abdomen. Unexpectedly, Saria intervenes by attacking the assailant who had stabbed Seiichi. She unleashes her inner beastly persona and engages the opponent. But this confrontation is short-lived as the assailant contemplates another method to eliminate Saria. Sarai's adversary unleashes a perilous move with their fingers, seemingly on the verge of securing their victory as they bid farewell to Sarai. Seiichi watches helplessly as Sarai is struck, wincing at the painful sound of the impactful blow. Suddenly, Seiichi jolts from his seat, muttering unfamiliar words, only to realize he is in the company of other people. He swiftly tries to compose himself, and after a quick scan of his surroundings, he turns to find Saria sitting beside him, seemingly unruffled. It dawns on Seiichi that he has been experiencing nothing more than a vivid dream, and he is not in any actual danger. His friends, sharing a carriage with him, excitedly announce their arrival at their destination, the Barbador Magic Academy. They all peer out the window and express their delight with little shrieks of excitement. Seiichi is impressed by the Academy's picturesque appearance and eagerly anticipates the start of his new chapter in life. The carriage patiently awaits the grand entrance gate of the Barbador Magic Academy to open, granting them access to the vast surroundings. Seiichi and his friends disembark from the carriage and are captivated by the enchanting beauty of their new academy. Their reverie is interrupted by an elderly man who kindly offers to guide them on a tour of the academy. Eagerly, they inquire about various aspects and make observations, sharing their wonderment with the elderly guide. The wise gentleman imparts a lesson on the academy's rich history, explaining how it attracts students from diverse backgrounds, all seeking to master and expand their knowledge of magic. Over time, the academy's reputation has grown, leading to the development of a bustling magical city with a wealth of talented individuals. Seiichi discovers that their environment encompasses not just the academy, but also numerous shops and buildings. Lulu, filled with curiosity about the vibrant surroundings, pauses to indulge in some snacks and excitedly shares her culinary experience with her friends. Inside a classroom, various students engage in a variety of activities, such as chatting and playing, while a particular group is conspicuously isolated and treated as outcasts, with their fellow students showing no interest in forming connections with them. Kanazuki abruptly senses Seiichi's arrival and promptly alerts her friends. The elderly guide then addresses Seiichi about his role as a teacher, and reminds him of another group of students. Seiichi reflects on the group of students who have been marginalized, and the headmaster informs him of their status as hero candidates from the Kaiser Empire. He also explains how their dormant abilities have led to their isolation and internal conflicts among the other students. Seiichi is entrusted with the task of reconciling the outcast students with the rest of the student body, and providing training to the talented students to bring their skills up to the level of the hero candidates. Saria and Lulun enroll as students, while Artoria takes on the role of an adventure instructor, and Oliga becomes Seiichi's assistant. They all appear content with their new responsibilities and promptly commence their duties. Seiichi, meanwhile, finds himself overwhelmed by the current phase of his life. Seiichi reminisces about his past as a student, recalling the bullying he endured and a confrontation with a gorilla, which ultimately led to his eventual relationship with Sarai, who is now his bride. He also reflects on the various challenges he has faced against numerous opponents, all stemming from the first time he consumed the fruit of revolution, an experience he found distasteful. The principal provides Seiichi with an overview of the class he is to manage, known as Class F, renowned for its troublesome reputation. Seiichi feels a sense of intimidation upon the arrival of a woman in the principal's office. Beatrice reprimands the principal for embarking on a journey without seeking the teacher's permission, and neglecting numerous pending paperwork items that require his attention. Despite the principal's attempts to explain, he inadvertently triggers Beatrice's anger as she warns him not to shirk his responsibilities. Seiichi stammers as he attempts to converse with Beatrice while she guides them to their respective assignments. Beatrice formally introduces herself as the former teacher for Class F, and explains that she will now be assisting Seiichi. Initially, Lulun objects to the idea of being separated from her master, Seiichi, but she changes her mind upon realizing that her true desires can be fulfilled by being in Artoria's class. Summoning his courage, Seiichi inquires about their role as co-teachers, but the answer he receives leaves him disheartened. Beatrice informs him of her inability to develop the talents of the gifted students. However, Beatrice views the Class F students in a different light and believes that they are remarkable students, not as problematic as they are perceived to be. She expresses her faith in the children's abilities and places her trust in Seiichi to accomplish what she couldn't. Upon entering the classroom, Seiichi experiences an unfortunate mishap as a wash basin unexpectedly falls on his head, courtesy of one of the students. As he gathers himself to address the students, he opens his eyes and realizes that there are only about 4 unruly-looking students in the class. Seiichi starts to question Beatrice's perspective on them being well-behaved and exceptional youngsters, leading him to feel uneasy about the role he is about to undertake. Within a dim and desolate forest, an ominous laughter resonates from a shadowy cave, and a voice emanates from a globe, revealing a sinister scheme to resurrect a malevolent creature. The voice also mentions the necessity of gathering the negative emotions of despair from humans to carry out this plot. Kreis, who avidly listens to the voice around the globe, excitedly informs his partner of their plan to assault the Barbador Magic Academy. Their wicked scheme revolves around extinguishing the lives of VIPs from across the globe. Suddenly, Kreis finds himself under attack by individuals he recognizes as Demioros and Angrea. They unveil their self-serving plan to thwart Kreis and assume the responsibility of launching an assault on the Barbador Magic Academy. Seiichi's group arrives at Barbador Magic Academy, filled with hope and excitement. Seiichi and Artoria become teachers, the others become students. Seiichi, tasked with addressing Class F's issues, feels anxious with Beatrice as his assistant. When a Class F student tries to bully Seiichi, he trembles in fear. Beatrice intervenes with a stern glare, restoring calm. Beatrice reprimands the bully with a forceful book blow, evoking remorse and tears. Seiichi, astonished, witnesses Beatrice taking charge. She introduces Seiichi as their new teacher, but the bully remains dissatisfied and tries to insult Seiichi, met by another stern action from Beatrice. Then, Beatrice initiates the introduction of the new teacher, and Seiichi addresses the students, encouraging them not to be intimidated by their similar ages. A female student shows disinterest, prompting the bully to disrupt the class again, met with caution from Beatrice. The bully, Agnes Passion, introduces himself as an intriguing Sarai, who surprises everyone by revealing her gorilla side. Broodlev Kaiser, the second student, continues, and Seiichi realizes Kaiser is the Kaiser Empire's prince. Kaiser boasts of his superiority asking for special treatment. Agnos challenges Kaiser to a duel, causing Seiichi to struggle to stop them until Beatrice intervenes. The lone female student, Helen Rosa, reluctantly shares her name and gets defensive when Seiichi comments on her brief introduction. Baird Lutra, using sign language, introduces himself quietly, expressing joy in meeting Seiichi. Feeling overwhelmed by his limited interaction with the four students, Seiichi doubts his ability to manage Class F. Meanwhile, Kanazuki Karen tracks Seiichi's location using her unique sense, colliding with Seto Airi, who also seeks Seiichi. Beatrice reveals Agnos's poor test performance. Seiichi, suddenly exhausted, and Brood Kaiser, enthusiastic about his score, receive their results. Beatrice praises Baird for outscoring Brood, leading Agnos to protest his poor result and consider challenging Brood again. Halted by Beatrice's stern intervention, Helen achieves a perfect score but shows no excitement. Saria, in her gorilla form, disrupts class with compliments. Seiichi privately speaks with Saria about limiting transformations for class focus. Beatrice suggests assessing the students' practical abilities in combat training for their first special lesson. Sarai and classmates discuss Seiichi, and Saria surprises them by revealing she's Seiichi's wife, with Oliga as his sister. Saria also mentions Lulun and Artoria accompanying Seiichi, leaving the classmates surprised. Helen asks Saria about Seiichi's strength but appears disappointed afterward. The principal gathers feedback from Seiichi and Beatrice about their experience with Class F, revealing the students' nickname, the Dropout Corps, and their underlying issue. Class F prepares for their special lesson when interrupted by students from another group, led by Brood's older brother, who insults Class F. Despite efforts to prevent conflict, a quarrel ensues. Helen informs Sarai that they'll wrestle against Brood's older brother from Class S. Theobald Terra Kaiser tries to woo Saria but faces rejection as Saria declares her love for Seiichi. Theobald, angered by Sarai's rejection and Class F's mocking, storms out, postponing the duel to the upcoming competition. Before leaving, he gives Seiichi a glance and responds to Saria with a smirk. Seiichi apologizes for his lateness, and his students withhold details from Beatrice. Helen insists on being Seiichi's first opponent, reprimanding him for not using magic and drawing her weapon, persuading Agnos to start the lesson. Helen charges furiously at Seiichi, who tries to evade her relentless attacks. As he dodges, he notices the intense hatred in Helen's strikes and reflects on it. Meanwhile, Demioros and Angrea discuss their malevolent plan to destroy the Barbador Academy, boasting about their unique abilities. Angrea expresses confidence in her magical prowess to execute the act and evade Demioros. However, Demioros reminds her of Principal Barnabas, a powerful holy mage. Angrea dismisses it as a joke, and they share a sinister laugh, eagerly awaiting the plan's outcome. Seiichi agrees to Beatrice's suggestion for a mock battle with Class F to assess their abilities. Helen, his first opponent, openly displays her strong dislike for him, believing he underestimates them by not using magic. She charges at him aggressively, despite his attempts to calm her. Seiichi decides not to hold back, but Helen unexpectedly gains the upper hand, shocking him. Saria and Oliga worry while Helen's classmates cheer her on, praising her as the twin of Crimson Blades. Helen prepares her final decisive attack, conjuring her twin fang attack. Helen screams and finds herself in Seiichi's arms, confused by how her attack led to this situation. She argues with Seiichi to be back on the ground. Agnos wants to face Seiichi, but Brood suggests a 3-on-1 battle, which Seiichi accepts. Brood strategizes with his classmates. Seiichi ponders their sudden decision to team up. Agnos tries to intimidate Seiichi but fails to land a hit. Seiichi skillfully evades attacks from Baird and Agnos, frustrating Brood. As they attack together, Seiichi surprises them by using his mouth to grasp their weapons and counters, causing the building to tremble. Helen is shocked seeing her classmates in pain after Seiichi's powerful attack. Agnos vents his frustration over the constant insults directed at them as magic failures. Seiichi empathizes, and the students join in, expressing sorrow. Seiichi uses his world vision skill, revealing magical chains binding Class F. He realizes their inability to use magic stems from a specific condition. He remembers Beatrice's prior revelation. Class F's main issue is their inability to use magic despite dedicated efforts, leading to their ostracization by other magic students. Seiichi reaches the conclusion that the students of Class F have become disheartened and lost hope due to their problem. contemplating the unfortunate circumstances they've endured as a result. He is determined to save these students, but Agnos expresses doubt about Seiichi's words. Seiichi, unwilling to give up, decides to employ his magic to free them from their magical chains. However, his magical attempt backfires, repeatedly analyzing its observations without achieving the desired liberation. Class F suddenly feels an overwhelming power, leading to their liberation. Helen discovers her magic's true power, thrilling Agnos, who encourages others to explore their abilities. Baird suggests Brood try his waterfall magic, and as it pours down on him, Seiichi recognizes Brood's power. Brood celebrates his newfound freedom. Agnos follows suit, using fire magic but accidentally sets his head ablaze, unaware despite Seiichi's warnings. Brood uses his fall disaster power to douse the flames. Helen and classmates gather, discussing their newfound freedom and abilities. Beatrice witnesses the students' newfound freedom, shocked by the day's events. Everyone thanks Seiichi for restoring their happiness, with Agnos proud of proving themselves. They're determined to hone their abilities. Artoria struggles with her teaching responsibilities, feeling overwhelmed and dizzy after studying briefly. Kanazuki visits and sniffs Artoria, who escapes in embarrassment thinking of Seiichi. Meanwhile, Lulun enjoys her afternoon indulging in snacks, filled with excitement and joy. Lulun gazes at her snack and reminisces about how it brought her and her master together. Kanazuki's familiar scent guides her to Lulun and interrupts her break by sniffing her. Having recognized Seiichi's scent on Lulun, Seiichi and his group pay a visit to the Academy's cafeteria, where they are captivated by the wide array of highly rated food on display. As they enjoy their time there, Kanazuki also enters the cafeteria and, upon spotting Seiichi, unconsciously blurts out his name. Seiichi turns to confirm Kanazuki's identity, and she rushes to him, giving him a heartfelt embrace, leaving the onlookers in awe. Demioros and Angrea eventually reach the city where Barbados Magic Academy is located and survey it from a distance. Angrea identifies a protective barrier surrounding the academy and successfully breaches it. She employs her magic to manipulate the minds of the guards, allowing them entry into the city. With confidence, they make their way into the academy's surroundings. In the cafeteria, students are astonished by Kanazuki's intense sniffing of Seiichi despite the attention it draws. Artoria, jealous, confronts Seiichi and physically assaults him, but Beatrice intervenes and scolds Artoria. Kanazuki resumes sniffing Seiichi while Beatrice lectures Artoria about her anger. Beatrice questions the girls about Seiichi's scent on them. Later, in a field, Kanazuki introduces herself as Seiichi's childhood friend, while Lulun and others try to counter her, but fail to hit her. Saria intervenes to calm the ongoing disputes and introduces herself as Seiichi's partner. Kanazuki's fighting spirit falters, and Seiichi lifts her from the ground. Beatrice departs, and they discuss Kanazuki's feelings for Seiichi, which she denies, emphasizing their childhood friendship. Kanazuki advises cherishing Seiichi instead of arguing. She recounts a childhood incident where Seiichi defended her from bullies, blushing with embarrassment as Kanazuki speaks kindly of him while they play in a field. After Kanazuki's encounter with bullies, she learns from her neighbor that Seiichi was an orphan at the time, which astonishes her. Despite Seiichi's unfortunate circumstances, he remained friendly, surprising Kanazuki. Seiichi, who was bullied for various reasons, decides to confide in the girls. He reveals their origins in another world, shocking them. Seiichi astounds them further by transforming into his true self, a heavier person, to explain his story. He apologizes for raising their expectations and reveals his perceived flaws from consuming the fruit of evolution: short stature, extra weight, and an unpleasant odor. Kanazuki looks somber and apologizes for revealing Seiichi's truth as he continues addressing the group. Seiichi adds his cape to his heavier form and apologizes again for hiding his secret. Sarai, in her gorilla form, stands by him. Emotionally moved, Seiichi witnesses the girls accepting his true appearance, touched by their support. He invites Kanazuki to join their circle, but she declines, reminding him of their mission at the academy and expressing concern about dangerous enemies. Kanazuki plans to protect Seiichi and bids farewell. Origa notices a bracelet on Kanazuki's wrist, triggering troubling memories, and alerts Seiichi to the discovery. Kanazuki explains the bracelet's origin from the Kaiser Empire, designed to enhance their abilities. Seiichi uses his powers to uncover the bracelet's true purpose as the Bracelet of Affiliation. Enraged by its purpose, Seiichi's anger causes intense headaches for Kanazuki, and a sudden change in his demeanor witnessed by Artoria. Seiichi shouts uncontrollably, causing Kanazuki to collapse. His outburst liberates everyone affected by the bracelet. A menacing monster appears, targeting Seiichi, but Saria intervenes, snapping him out of danger. Saria rescues Seiichi from the monster's grip, urging him to regain control of his emotions. The concerned girls gather around Seiichi, relieved to see him safe. Seiichi rushes to Kanazuki, who has regained consciousness and happily recounts her experience. They realize the Kaiser Empire's sinister plot with the bracelet to control its wearers. Principal Barnabas joins, discussing the Empire's secretive plans. He speculates the bracelet as a weapon against the Demon Lord and reveals the Kaiser Empire's alliance with other kingdoms to dominate the world. Principal Barnabas goes on to elaborate that the Kaiser Empire likely intends to utilize the bracelets to control its warriors, and potentially launch an attack on the Magic Kingdom, the Windbligen Kingdom, or both. He expresses his gratitude to Seiichi for destroying the bracelets, and emphasizes the importance of keeping their conversation confidential. Seiichi, filled with determination to protect Kanazuki, excuses himself to have dinner with his family. However, Kanazuki approaches him and accepts his invitation to join their group, albeit in the role of an elder sister. Unbeknownst to them, Seto Airi discreetly lingers behind a pillar, eavesdropping on Seiichi's conversation. Demioros engages in a discussion about the earlier surge they experienced with his colleague Andrea, and a mysterious voice unexpectedly joins their conversation. Halio from the Kaiser Empire employs magic to communicate with them, and conveys the news of the destruction of the Empire's bracelet. He also reveals that the surge's effect has significantly increased the dark energy of the Demon Lord. Seiichi's rage over Kanazuki's enslavement bracelet unleashes a dark force, enveloping everyone. His friends please save him from being consumed. Meanwhile, Angria and Demioros infiltrate Barbados, plotting their next move. Seiichi concludes his lecture with Class F, urging them for the impending class competition. Agnos feels motivated to face Theobald. Brood requests special training after school, initially met with reluctance from Seiichi, but he eventually agrees, seeing their eagerness to learn. Angrea and Demioros prepare for an attack during their break by satisfying their hunger. Angrea considers having their meal inspected, but Demioros interjects, requesting another round of desserts after already indulging in several. Meanwhile, the special training for Class F begins with Seiichi pitted against his students. Each student unleashes their unique powers, but their attacks have no effect on Seiichi. As he contemplates the peculiar sensations surrounding him while blocking their attacks, Beatrice commends their efforts and offers words of encouragement. However, Theobald arrives and resumes his usual bullying of the students. Theobald identifies Helen's origins and belittles her empire, provoking her. Baird tries to calm Helen while Brood confronts Theobald, advocating against ruling through coercion and mentioning Seiichi's name. Theobald challenges Seiichi to a duel, but Brood postpones it to the class competition. Helen asks Seiichi for help to become stronger, and he agrees. They intensify their training for the upcoming competition. Agnos doubts their chances, but Baird's presence changes the conversation. The girls support each other with words of encouragement before the competition's eve. On the day of the class competition, Angrea spends her time shopping and trying outfits. A mysterious boy warns Demioros about their plot or face consequences, leaving them nervous. Principal Barnabas announces the competition's start, but Seiichi faces digestive issues causing delays. Outside the restroom, Saria and Olga remind Seiichi of the competition's commencement. Theobald and Brood prepare for the match when something unsettling happens. During the class competition's start, a mysterious chain captures Principal Barnabas, causing chaos. Angrea and Demioros disrupt the event, revealing their affiliation with the Devil Order and their mission to sacrifice everyone. Demioros erects a barrier, trapping the students. Panic ensues as attempts to break the barrier fail, causing 2 students to vanish. Beatrice tries to restore order, but the students flee in panic. She notices the advanced light spell used and questions its swift casting. Meanwhile, Theobald decides to confront Angrea for trespassing. Angrea counters Theobald's attack, manipulating his friends against him until Brood intervenes. Agnos frees Theobald's friends and approaches Brood. Brood pleads with his brother to form an alliance against their enemies. Helen reluctantly joins forces with Brood, and Theobald grants his brother authority. Theobald defends against Angrea as Helen and classmates distract her. They subdue Angrea, causing her mask to fall off. Angrea, enraged by the exposure of her face, unleashes punishment on Helen and her friends. Demioros explains the mask's significance in concealing Angrea's immense power. Born from an incident where she burned her own face, Angrea inflicts excruciating pain on them, aiming to ruin Helen's face. Beatrice intervenes, piercing the barrier to halt Angrea's destructive intent. Meanwhile, Seiichi continues to struggle with stomach trouble. In the ongoing battle between Beatrice and Angrea, the situation remains tense and uncertain. Demioros observes with a sinister smile, expecting events to unfold in his favor. Students from both Class F and Class S lie weakened and unconscious after Angrea's attacks. Beatrice grows increasingly agitated by Angrea's taunts, while Principal Barnabas remains bound and unable to act. Angrea's manipulation powers turn Agnos against Beatrice, adding to the chaos of the battle. Amidst Angrea's growing confidence and manipulation of Agnos, the spectators hope for Seiichi's intervention, but he's still grappling with the effects of his meal. Agnos attacks Beatrice, but she skillfully evades his strikes. In a surprising turn, Agnos admits his newfound powers come from Seiichi, not Beatrice. Beatrice is stunned, and Agnos vents his frustration by attacking her book. Helen and her friends attempt to help, but are stopped by Beatrice, who takes a hit herself. She reprimands Agnos and gradually breaks Angrea's hold over him. Brood realizes Beatrice's caring guidance has freed him from Angrea's control. Beatrice confronts Angrea, skillfully evading her attacks and delivering a punishing strike that floors Angrea. The students cheer for Beatrice's triumph. Agnos, awakening with remorse, seeks forgiveness from Beatrice but forgets the recent events, suggesting they share a meal instead. Demioros tries to get their attention using Principal Barnabas, but they remain focused on trivial matters. As Demioros tries to act, Beatrice intervenes, preventing harm to the principal. However, the situation takes an unexpected turn as the battle concludes, leaving one more enemy to face. In the midst of the battle, Angrea pleads with Demioros for power, hoping to regain what she lost. Demioros, however, cruelly rejects her, questioning her worth as an apostle and belittling her abilities. He boasts about his own crest, a symbol of power from their master, highlighting his superiority. Demioros challenges Angrea to reveal her crest, but as she fails to meet his expectations, she vanishes, seemingly expelled for her shortcomings in the eyes of their cult. In a clash between Brood and Demioros, Beatrice, despite being struck down, gathers her strength. She warns her students not to interfere, shedding her coat and glasses to reveal her resolve for a decisive strike. Her attack fades, leaving Demioros unharmed, who counterattacks. Despite efforts to shield her, Demioros defeats Baird and his friends. His sinister goal is to eliminate the Class F students to aid his master's return. Motivated by her role as an educator, Beatrice stands against Demioros, vowing to protect her students. Demioros prepares his ultimate strike against Beatrice as Class F watches in horror. Suddenly, Seiichi intervenes, blocking Demioros' attack and saving Beatrice. The students' faces light up with hope as Seiichi rescues her. He teleports Beatrice to safety and orders Olga and Saria to protect the students. Seiichi then confronts Demioros for his harm to the students, seething with anger. Demioros, trembling, launches a final attack, but Seiichi swiftly defeats him with a single powerful strike, hurling him into the dark clouds. The barrier trapping the students shatters, allowing them to celebrate their hard-earned victory, amazed by Seiichi's swift and decisive action. Seiichi apologizes for his lateness to his students without revealing the reasons. Sato Airi, inspired by his strength, vows to enhance her abilities to match his and Beatrice's. Principal Barnabas quietly observes the students' renewed spirit under Seiichi's influence. Brood advises Theobald to focus on improving his fighting skills rather than dwelling on his defeat. The remaining apostles convene for an urgent meeting led by a masked member, discussing Angrea and Demioros' failed mission in Barbados and planning their next movie. One of the apostles volunteers for the next mission and swiftly disappears to execute it. In a desolate stadium, Class F mourns their unconscious teacher, Seiichi, alongside Aileen. Principal Barnabas and Beatrice offer condolences, shocked by Seiichi's sudden state. Seiichi awakens in an unfamiliar place with Aileen, who who reveals they're in the underworld. Another voice joins, hinting they're deceased without disclosing the cause. They realize they're dead but are urged to attempt a return to the living world, with the voice suggesting Seiichi might be the main character of the show, which could be ending. Seiichi discovers the sole path to rebirth, finding the gate of life in the underworld. Aelin, hopeful about escaping, resolves to revive Seiichi and seeks his encouragement. Guided by an enigmatic voice, they face a question-and-answer challenge, risking death if they answer wrong. As Seiichi contemplates their first meeting, he observes Aelin trying to give him hints. Seiichi navigates a boat as Aelin signals hints for their question. After careful thought, Seiichi takes a chance and answers correctly, earning praise from the presenter. Aelin is freed, joining Seiichi for the next round. They watch a video of their first meeting. Aelin, startled by an insect, discards her chopsticks, and Seiichi offers her new ones, starting their friendship as outcasts in school. Over lunches, Seiichi encourages Aelin's self-worth, complimenting her character and advising her to make friends. As memories flood back, Seiichi realizes why Aelin felt familiar. Aelin joyfully recognizes Seiichi and vows to protect him at any cost, attributing her growth to him. The presenter announces the test's final stage. Meanwhile, a castle meeting discusses an alliance with the Magic Kingdom. Ellis captures a man as alliance collateral. In the Magic Kingdom, leaders discuss aligning with Wimbledon for restoring happiness. Miss Ludia shows interest in Gustle, but Ellis takes the alliance seriously. The Wimbledon King assigns Gustle and Ellis to protect the kingdom's honor. Gustle and the king share a laugh. Seiichi and Aelin face a new challenge in the underworld, encountering a male voice recognized as a Rose Clan ancestor. They learn the Gate of Life is behind a labyrinth, obstructed by these ancestors. The challenge begins, with Seiichi and Aelin navigating the labyrinth while pursued. Aelin reprimands the clan ancestors using hand signals, and Seiichi follows suit, injuring his fingers in the process. The leader of the Rose Clan's ancestors demands that Seiichi give up and remain in the underworld, but Seiichi refuses and attacks them. The clan leader lifts his brother and vows revenge against Seiichi. Aelin stumbles while running and pleads with Seiichi to save himself and leave her behind as the clan leader approaches. The Rose Clan leader uses his powers to attack Seiichi. Aelin weeps as Seiichi lies, but he unexpectedly regains strength, claiming victory over the clan leader. Seiichi channels his anger into a counterattack, exploiting the opponent's weakness with a powerful strike. Overcoming hurdles, Seiichi and Aelin rush toward the Gate of Life. Seiichi awakens in reality, surrounded by friends and students. Louise calls out to him, stumbling as she approaches. Seiichi catches her, growing concerned. Louise is assigned to retrieve Seiichi for an important alliance negotiation. King Ranza briefs her on human-demon alliances and the necessity of Seiichi's presence. She heads to the Magic Academy to find Seiichi and Saria. There, she encounters Seiichi in a weakened, injured state. Meanwhile, Gustle gathers a crowd, launching guild recruitment for the impending alliance with the Demon Lord army. The judges initially focus on the first candidate's physique but quickly point out flaws. Following candidates disappoints until a new one impresses both judges, leaving a strong impression. Gustle is thrilled to find someone meeting their standards and introduces them as a new guild member. Gustle and the guild congratulate the recruit. The highly anticipated summit to welcome the Demon Kingdom begins in the kingdom. Miss Ludia and her entourage enter the palace, impressed by the surroundings. Kreis updates his partner using a magical globe about the cult group's progress. A battle-worn soldier notices the tense atmosphere within the Kaiser Empire, feeling unproductive. Reflecting on the kingdom's state, he enters the palace and, lost in thought, notices a partially open door. A cloaked figure communicates through a magical globe, revealing the Devil Order's control over the Kaiser Empire. He boasts of gathering negative energy from all levels of society. Kreis celebrates their progress in resurrecting the Great Devil. Suddenly, the Emperor's sword, Zakia, overhearing, confronts them. Helio taunts Zakia for eavesdropping and questions his loyalty to the previous emperor, Alf. Zakia confronts Helio, determined to foil the Devil Order's plot. He strikes, but Helio dodges and vanishes, warning that nothing will hinder their plans. Zakia, undeterred, mounts his horse, recalling a conversation with Emperor Alf about past calamities. Monsters had ravaged the kingdom, prompting the nation's founding for stability. On his deathbed, Alf tasks Zakiya with safeguarding the nation from similar threats. On his journey, Zakiya is ambushed by a boy linked to the Devil Order. Enraged, Zakiya battles his adversary. The boy incapacitates Zakiya, vowing to act and ruthlessly attacking until Zakiya's shield shatters. When asked about his allegiance to the cult, the boy deflects, craving amusement. Zakiya, resolute in honoring Emperor Alf's wishes, rallies for a counterattack. Reflecting on his sword's history crafted by Alf, he stresses upholding its honor. Fueled by dedication, Zakiya enhances his sword with magic, launching an assault. Despite his efforts, defeat seems imminent until an unexpected intervention halts the impending strike. Louise, captain of the Valkyries, interrupts Zakiya's fight, but disregards his warning about their enemy. She urges Zakiya to save himself and engages in battle, struggling against the boy's agility and enduring painful strikes. Acknowledging her opponent's strength, Louise boasts about her master's prowess. Zakiya shields Louise from an attack, sacrificing himself. Tearfully calling out his name, Louise watches as their foe departs, haunted by a memory. Zakiya, before his demise, reveals the Devil's Order plot to Louise. She shares her experiences with Seiichi and Saria, who join her in a carriage. Louise expresses concern about the impending danger at the summit, but Saria remains skeptical while Seiichi assures her of a successful alliance. At the summit, Gustel and a Magic Kingdom representative argue, leading to alliance dissolution and conflict. The guild recruit intervenes, restoring order. Louise arrives with Seiichi and Saria, unveiling the truth to the king and representatives. Miss Ludia and King Ranzi decide to ally against the Devil's Order, unaware of a lurking spy among them. Louise fetches Seiichi and Saria from the academy, securing a successful alliance. Meanwhile, at Barbados Magic Academy, Aaron behaves suspiciously atop a tower, undergoing a sudden gender switch, revealing an apostle from the cult group. Kanazuki notices Aaron's altered demeanor and discusses it with her, observing Aaron's mischievous worry regarding Seiichi. Kanazuki senses Aaron's evil plot in Seiichi's absence. Genpo, an apostle of the Great Devil Order, feels unfulfilled despite being from an affluent family, as people only bond with him for what he offers. Interrupting his talk, Agnes corrects Aaron for entering the male restroom. Aaron smirks and expresses a desire to bring despair, attacking Agnos and then transforming into Saria. Confusion ensues among Agnos and the boys as Aaron's behavior shifts. Genpo reveals his true identity and plans to execute those close to Seiichi upon his return to the academy. He moves to target Lulun, pulling out a knife. Lulun, mistaking Aaron's intent, counters the attack, then sits to talk. Recognizing Aaron as a classmate, Lulun questions Aaron's earlier actions, making Aaron nervous about being exposed. Lulun assumes Aaron's motive is hunger and offers to share her meal as thanks for Aaron saving Seiichi. Kind words from Lulun trigger memories of Genpo's lonely childhood, moving him to tears. However, his allergies kick in and he flees, taking on Lulun's body. Spotting Olga alone in the rain, he prepares to attack, but she surprises him with an umbrella, offering it for protection. Surprised by Olga's kindness, Genpo recalls his past with bullies and questions Olga about her motive. Genpo, still unable to execute his plan, encounters Artoria and vows to compensate for his failed attempts. Seiichi informs Saria of his plans while she goes to buy drinks and encounters a lonely boy. The boy, part of the Devil's Order, recognizes Seiichi and engages him in conversation, pretending to be a tourist and praising Seiichi. Genpo disguises himself as Seiichi to ensnare Artoria, who is lost in thought by a window, watching the rain. Seiichi approaches Artoria, confessing feelings for her while secretly plotting her demise. Artoria fakes a hug but surprises Seiichi with a punch for his gesture. Seiichi falls, feeling the pain, but Artoria shifts, sharing her fears after hearing about his supposed death. She appreciates Seiichi for accepting her despite rumors. Artoria punches him again for refusing a hug after her heartfelt confession. Disguised as Seiichi, Genpo spends time with the girls to understand their admiration. His plan backfires when he joins Principal Barnabas and the girls for a picnic. Artoria reminds Barnabas of the main agenda, discussing the Great Devil Order. A monster disrupts the picnic, stirred by the Great Devil's pulse. Seiichi saves Artoria and redirects the monster. Barnabas suspects an evil presence, assuming it's an assassin from the Great Devil Order. Olga notices Seiichi's change and raises it, but Kanazuki exposes Genpo. Artoria demands proof, and Kanazuki presents the real Aaron, validating her claims. Kanazuki rescues the real Eren from the Academy's co-op, where she explains her situation. Kanazuki's keen sense of smell exposes the fake Seiichi. Genpel, exposed, admits his identity as a top assassin for the Great Devil Order. He reveals swapping places with Eren amid Seiichi's battle with the Apostles. Genpel's brief time with Seiichi's loved ones makes him seek happiness, hoping for acceptance of his true self. Kanazuki encourages Genpel as he leaves, but in his attempt to denounce the Order, Genpel loses his life. Guild members spend an evening drinking, while a new recruit, a spy, plots to attack the nation's king, Ranze, aiming to create despair aiding the Great Devil's revival. Intently planning, he anticipates the outcome. As members lie unconscious at a bar, the recruit starts his operation, eliminating one quietly. Next morning, the guild investigates the murder. The new recruit, Viter, feigns interest, actively participating. Viter claims deadly food caused the death, opposing Ellis's theory of the Great Devil Order's involvement. Viter presents to Gustel, who accepts without confirming, silencing Ellis. Viter praises Gustel's analysis before suggesting a break. Gustel carelessly handles evidence, causing it to break. The guild shifts to interrogations, upsetting their allies treated as suspects. Despite Elise's disregarded contributions, she finds the embarrassing interrogation unnecessary. Vitor proposes using luminol to test for blood on a suspect's weapon, but accidentally spills it on Gustel, gaining more trust. The investigation continues, wasting time. The guild conducts a burial ceremony for their late member, while Ellis persists in claiming the member is alive. The ground shakes, startling Gustel as a hand grabs his leg. The supposedly deceased body stirs, claiming to awaken from slumber. Overjoyed, Gustel sheds tears as his friend recounts slipping and hitting his head, feigning death. The group celebrates, excluding Ellis. Gustel praises Viter's help, while Ellis grows suspicious. Seiichi returns to the academy, discussing the alliance between kingdoms and the fight against the Great Devil Order. He entrusts the academy to the students. Viter confronts Ellis in a dark alley, confessing his desire to beat her and challenging her. Ellis confirms her suspicions about Viter's true identity. Viter hits her, inflicting pain, until Gustel intervenes. Viter lies to Gustel about his motive for attacking Ellis. Mocking Gustel, Viter reveals the truth, enraging Gustel, who punches him. Gustel vows to confront Viter alone, moving to a larger area. He declares his determination to fight Viter with all his strength. Viter and Gustel exchange punches without one overpowering the other. Viter secretly enjoys the fight, relishing the chance to unleash his full power against Gustel. Gustel goads Viter to reveal his true strength. Viter removes his glasses and activates his inner ability, Resonance, growing enormous. They acknowledge their shared goal, to fight at their maximum. Viter brutally beats Gustel, gaining the upper hand in the battle. Viter taunts Gustel, causing him to weaken momentarily. However, Gustel regains his resolve and re-engages confidently. They both attack simultaneously, with Gustel continually rising despite the hits. Viter is surprised by Gustel's resilience and questions why he can withstand the assaults. A strange sensation overcomes Viter's arm upon contact with Gustel, leading to his arm snapping and trembling uncontrollably. Viter softens when Gustel calls him friend, feeling defeated for the first time in a while. He abandons the fight and leaves, hoping to meet Gustel again. However, Judas, another member of the Great Devil Order, appears and taunts Viter. Viter acknowledges his defeat and desire for another battle, but Judas swiftly eliminates him. Judas reveals his power, ubiquity, teleportation through space and time, to Vitor before bidding him farewell and disappearing. Destra presents a birthday gift to his female friend, which she deeply appreciates. However, in a fit of anger, Destra destroys the surrounding plants and wishes to erase memories. Meanwhile, Principal Barnabas calls Seiichi and his group for a crucial discussion, intending to disclose the true motive behind Seiichi's invitation to the academy. Principal Barnabas reveals that Seiichi was invited due to the looming battle with the Great Devil Order. He explains that consuming the fruit of evolution leads to confrontation with the Great Devil. Surprised by the principal's knowledge of his consumption, Seiichi listens as Beatrice presents a book on the creation legend. Long ago, a creature's revolt devastated the world, leading to a curse that birthed hate and spilled negative energy. This energy formed the fruit of evolution, sought after and suppressed by powerful beings to prevent its spread. Principal Barnabas discloses that the great devil initiated the revolt, and those who consume the fruit become its victims. Seiichi realizes he's consumed the maximum limit of 10 fruits, causing panic. To ease tensions, Principal Barnabas vows to protect Seiichi as a holy mage. Barnabas unveils Destra's true identity as a priest of the Great Devil Order, once his pupil. Years ago, Barnabas saved Destra from desolation, after witnessing his emotional outburst and his desire to bring despair due to the loss of his parents in a war. Barnabas offers to aid Destra, enrolling him as a student at the Magic Academy. Libera, an assistant teacher, arrives late to class and disregards Barnabas's reprimand to talk to Destra. As they bond, Destra admires Libera's efforts in guiding him as a model student. They discuss gift ideas, and later, Destra presents Libera with an anemone-made hairpin, which she gratefully accepts. However, tragedy strikes when a powerful dragon unexpectedly attacks the Magic Academy. During a dragon attack, everyone seeks refuge in the central tower, but Destra arrives late. While fleeing, he faces a dragon and tries to defend himself with his ice spear power. Libera shields Destra, sacrificing herself to distract their enemy. Destra witnesses her defeat and mourns her demise. Overwhelmed by grief, he summons the Great Devil, wishing for the power to make everything he touches not succumb to despair. Barnabas notices Destra's sudden change and tries to stop him from consuming the fruit of evolution, but he fails. Destra blames Barnabas for the Academy's disaster and disappears. Later, he reappears at the Academy, restraining Barnabas and the girls and attempting to abduct Seiichi. Barnabas intervenes but is attacked by Destra, who becomes enraged upon hearing about Libera. He assaults Barnabas, strangling him in anger. Seiichi witnesses Barnabas, sacrificing himself to save the children. Meanwhile, Destra signals Judas to initiate their plan, causing a massive portal to appear and envelop Seiichi and Destra. In this unfamiliar place, Destra reveals to Seiichi that they are in a world formed by negative emotions, where the Great Devil is imprisoned. Seiichi questions Destra about his intentions for bringing them there. Unknown to Seiichi, Saria is also present, brought along by Destra. Destra reveals his allegiance to the Great Devil and expresses excitement about its resurrection. He intends to exploit Seiichi, who consumed the fruit of evolution, to both revive it and destroy the Great Devil using Seiichi's negative energy. Despite Seiichi's attempt to use magic, it fails, forcing him to engage in a physical battle against Destra. In the clash, Destra strikes Seiichi, causing him to profusely bleed from a stab wound to his abdomen. During Seiichi's injury, Saria intervenes, engaging Destra in a fierce battle. Despite her efforts, Destra easily evades Saria's attacks and gains the upper hand, overpowering her. As Saria weakly calls out to Seiichi, Destra delivers a devastating blow using his despair power, leaving Saria powerless. Seiichi rushes to her side, deeply distraught by the outcome. Saria, despite her injuries, tells Seiichi not to mourn her sacrifice and appreciates him for his care. She falls unconscious. Destra blames Seiichi for her death, triggering Seiichi's unleashed power. Meanwhile, Judas anticipates the arrival of the Great Devil. Seiichi's inner strength emerges as his heart turns cold, prompting Destra's eagerness to witness Seiichi's transformation into the feared monster. Seiichi experiences a montage of his life, finding fulfillment in the real world. However, Destra intervenes, prompting Seiichi to recall his difficult childhood. Destra manipulates Seiichi into seeing himself as a victim like him, aiming to forge an alliance to destroy the world. In the midst of this, Saria's voice resonates in Seiichi's mind. Seiichi rejects Destra's proposal, emphasizing their differences and the empathy his past pain has cultivated in him. As Destra grows impatient, a radiant light appears, revealing Saria comforting Seiichi. Seiichi's appearance changes and he challenges Destra to teach him about love. He sings a song about the genuine evolution of love, causing those harmed in the battle to heal and revive. In a world where love triumphs, Destra's confusion unfolds as events shift unexpectedly. Judas, awaiting the devil's return, realizes his plans are compromised. Seiichi, poised for a final showdown, urges Destra to act. Abandoning weapons, Destra employs his abilities, only to find Seiichi's love counters his every move. Frustration builds as Destra's attacks fail, met by Seiichi's unwavering love defense. An analysis reveals the absorption of absolute death. Seiichi, striking Destra, offers kindness, yet Destra, reconciled but unable to change, chooses suicide. Seiichi rushes to grab Destra and attempts to use his healing abilities to prevent Destra's death but fails to accomplish that. Destra turns into the fruit of evolution before vanishing into the earth. Saria regains consciousness and commends Seiichi for winning the fight against Destra. And then she becomes all romantic with Seiichi and mentions returning home to their loved ones. Saria, foreseeing the fight's toll on Seiichi, transforms into her gorilla form and offers to take him home. They safely return to Barbador Magic Academy, visiting Principal Barnabas. Concerned, Barnabas inquires about Destra, learning of his demise from Seiichi. Class F students and Seiichi's companions rejoice at his return. They share a picnic, playfully arguing over who gets to feed Seiichi. Amidst it all, Seiichi pledges to continue his journey alongside his cherished friends. The end. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new anime recaps.